thank you so much. And I'm looking forward not just to sharing pieces of my story with everyone, but also the dialogue that we'll have at the conclusion, because I think the questions from your audience specifically would be very helpful to an individual who may need some clarity on some things that I'm going to share. But I love to share my story because I think within my story, there's going to be a lot of seeds that you can pick up and that you can utilize to grow your own enterprise, whether it's online or offline. But the methodology that I've used to kind of connect and learn about entrepreneurism and to grow into this thing we call entrepreneurism, I think would be beneficial to a lot of your listeners. You mentioned that we're born entrepreneurs. Now, I've always felt that.
Yes, sir.
Abdullah, I've never been able to hold a job in my life. I think I've held 3 jobs in my life, and maybe one of them lasted, 3 weeks,
yes,
something like that. And a bakery. I knew that wasn't for me when I was working with my brothers at a bakery, and I would look over and see some of the people who had been there for many years, and they would be pushing these heavy iron trays into the baking machine, and I would look and see some of their fingertips cut off and things. I said, no, I don't think I want to work that hard to get my fingertips cut off, especially for, I believe at that time, $6-7 an hour. I said, I don't think it's worth it to lose a finger.
Right.
That was one job. The other job was just doing some custodial work in some office buildings, things like that. That didn't really intrigue me. And then another job that I had was working for a cousin of mine in a brickyard, throwing bricks. Yes, so sir. I can literally tell you all that a pallet of bricks, 552 bricks make up a pallet. Right. That you see when they're stacked to kind of build houses and things like that. And the reason I know that is because I had to throw those and stack those bricks, and we got paid a penny a brick. So I was making $5.52 to stack up 552 bricks. And I knew that wasn't for me. Right. But you mentioned, Brother Abdul Hakim, I was born with a gift to be in front of people, to entertain. So at the young age of 5 years old, I would say this was probably 1973, 74. Myself and 2 of my cousins who were twins were in the living room. And I know many of you have probably seen some of those, stories from the 70s or even lived through them, where mom and dad call all of the cousins and knock on them in the room, and then they put the children right there and say, go ahead and sing for them, baby. You go ahead and sing for them. And so me and my cousins, we were doing Dancing Machine by the Jackson 5 at that time. And I was Michael. I was the lead singer.
Who else?
Dancing Machine in the living room. But from that moment forward, I could hold a little note. So my family pushed me, and I started having an entertainment career, winning talent shows, winning my first talent show, major talent show in high school. And from there, this was my way of using my talent and my gift, as you mentioned earlier, Brother Abdul Hakim. And it blossomed. I started performing, became a house band. Then we started opening up for some of the greats. I opened up for Smokey Robinson. I've opened up for Natalie Cole. I don't know if any of you, before Jodeci was Jodeci. So I remember them before they're who they are now. I opened up for Ready for the World. So I've had that type of musical career. And then I started getting into the business side, Brother Abdul Hakim, because now if I'm creating I got a production deal and creating my own music. Now we got to sell this stuff, right? And so the best way to sell it, I started booking some of those acts, me and my brother, my older brother, and I would put myself on those shows. And I'm out of Detroit. So, so the Motown fever was in Detroit. So I'm originally from Detroit. I reside now in Atlanta, Georgia. But we started promoting concerts, and we had a lot of fun. I was the first one to bring before Cedric the Entertainer got on the Kings of Comedy, after he had left BET Comics View, I was the first one to book him for Detroit. But I started learning lessons when I started promoting concerts, because we can have all of this fun and everybody was on the floor dancing and laughing and cracking jokes. But then if all of the seats didn't sell out like that upper bowl at the top, so everybody was having fun on the lower bowl, but then the upper bowl had vacant seats. And that's when I started realizing that we could put on this great show, this great performance, almost have a full house, but still lose money.
Right.
Because the profit was in those seats.
Right.
In the upper bowl. So now I got to start doing some math. And from that, I just started asking questions. Someone directed me into real estate investing. I started studying real estate in the city of Detroit, started buying, some of you may be familiar with all of the great home study courses that they would sell at night. So I'm dating myself because these were not the downloads. These were the VHS tapes and the cassette tapes. Right. We used to buy the full manual. And I started studying. It was my first negotiations was with a woman, and we purchased a 4-unit in the city of Detroit, on the east side of Detroit. And before we could finish buying, she was retiring. I wanted to buy her entire portfolio. At least we wanted to try to buy them on land contract. And some of your guests may be familiar with some of those terms, because you all sound like you had a great time talking about real estate last week. Before we got an opportunity to purchase them, she passed away.
Okay.
And her estate ended up going to her son. And I had to start negotiating with him. Eventually we got them, but now we had to clean out the properties. And so I'm giving you this story to say that in that basement of one of those properties was an actual home study course of those real estate gurus. And I started studying it. That's how I started learning how to flip houses and started making money, having rental property. And in around 2002, the real estate guru that I was following at that particular time, he invited me to Orlando, Florida, to attend a conference that had nothing to do with real estate, which was kind of shocking because he's making, everybody's there is making money. He's making millions of dollars, but it was at this conference, Brother Abdul Hakim and Sister Selvina, that he revealed that he made more money selling the how-to courses than he did in investing in local real estate. Now, he was making millions of dollars investing in local real estate in Florida, which is where he was from, but he made more money teaching the entire nation how they could do what he was doing in Orlando, Florida. And he started using these terms that I couldn't really understand at that time, but I've grown to understand. He started talking about long-term value of a customer. And he talked about how each customer becomes worth $50,000 to me.
Right.
And I started listening to him. I was like, wow, that's for one customer, $50,000. But then I had to start adding up because I was one of those customers. And I was like, well, I did buy that course. I did attend that boot camp. So that was $3,000. That was $5,000. I'm here now. So you start at, I'm like, wow, I'm one of those people that he can look at me and say, that's worth $50,000 long-term value to him. So that was my introduction to what is called, at that time, it was called the information marketing space, right? Information marketing, where you take your knowledge, your experience, your expertise, your passion, or even the experience, expertise, and passion of others, and package them into those information products, which was those home study courses and things like that. Now, all of us buy tapes and CDs, so we didn't realize that, you know, this was an industry that you could make money. I had the Les Brown's cassettes and CDs and all of those things, but I didn't realize that this was an industry that generated millions and millions of dollars. But when he said that, and he gave us the right to purchase the license for that conference, which was the actual knowledge of how to get into this industry. I purchased the license. That course was 16 cassette tapes, of VHS tapes, and 2 manuals that were this thick. I purchased that with the rights that I could sell that. I can go home and duplicate that exact package and sell it to other people. I went home to Detroit, Michigan. I took out a little classified ad in the Michigan Chronicle. And the Michigan Chronicle, this ad was learn how to get into the information marketing industry, selling your knowledge. Whatever the 16 cassettes, order your free report, which was nothing but me sending them the actual sales letter in the mail. And we would do that. And then before the week was over, Brother Abdul Hakim, I'd received a check and a money order for $397 each.
Wow.
And so I had made my money back. Once I got those money orders, now I got to run down to Kinko's. I had my dual cassette recorder. So now I got to copy them and print everything out. And then I got to mail it to them. But now I'm in this direct mail industry. And then I just kept running that ad and people would keep sending me these money orders. And now I'm in this space and I love it now. And of course, now we're getting into, I know everybody is familiar with 2008, with the great, banking crisis and the real estate crash in the States. And of course, affected people throughout the world who were buying the mortgages and things like that. But in Detroit, the real estate market started to crack a little bit sooner than 2007, 2008, because we also had the automotive industry, which was tied to that. And if any of you remember, if some of you are old enough to remember, if you remember one of Barack Obama's first, I guess you would say, initiatives that he had to take care of was bailing out the automotive industry, in addition to the banks and things like that. So Detroit was getting a double whammy. The automotive industry was going bankrupt and the housing that was attached to it was collapsing. And so now this industry of taking knowledge and information and sharing it literally saved my business, because everyone was asking me, well, Brother Bedford, how are you doing this, making money with these ugly houses that I was flipping and all of this? And I'll never forget this, Brother Abdul Hakim, because this was kind of the start of my connections with these millionaires. And I'll bring it full circle to show you how that all happened. But this was the start of it. In that home study course of providing knowledge and information and packaging that and selling it, there was one tape number 7. I'll never forget it. And it was all about the internet at that time. And remember, this is just beginning. We're talking about 2003, 2004, 2005. Right. And it was all about how to do what we're doing in the information marketing industry, but put it online. And at that time, it was still dial-up. We weren't necessarily into high speed yet. PayPal was just coming out. So orders being transacted online wasn't that, easy and secure at that time. And so those who were in the industry, though, they taught on that tape on how to do it. And they taught about building up an e-zine. Now we call it just signing up for a newsletter and give me your email. But back then it was called, it was an e-zine. And my very first site was called howtobeablacentrepreneur.com, which was an e-zine where I shared what I knew about entrepreneurship, my story in real estate, and all of these different things. And then I had around 400 to 500 people sign up. They were asking me the questions about how I was making money doing that. And this is when it really everything just shifted for me, because now that tape number 7 says, you have this e-zine. Now what you need to do is make an offer to this list, right? Tell everybody what it is that you want. And so now I'm trying to get the courage to do it. So I say, you all are asking me about, how I'm making money flipping these ugly houses. I say, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put together a small report that outlines exactly what I did, and I'll sell it to you for $7. So I never created a sales page or anything. I just sent that email with my PayPal link in there. Sent it out. I waited to probably around 1:00 a.m. I said, I'm nervous. I don't want anybody cussing me out, sending me emails. So I sent it out around 1 a.m. Woke up the following morning, and Brother Abdul Hakim, normally when I'm so used to just going and, having my coffee and opening up the laptop and seeing and reading my email, this morning I avoided it. I was scared to death to open up my email because I didn't know what I was going to see.
Right.
And then when I finally opened it up, probably around noon, 1:00 afternoon, I started seeing probably the 4 greatest words I've ever seen in my life. And this is spiritual injection, right? So we're spiritual people. So when you say things like, let there be light, that's
Right.
let us make man. These are some great 4-word phrases that we kind of grasp hold to. But these 4 words that I saw that morning or that afternoon, Brother Abdul Hakim, changed the trajectory of my life. I looked and I saw notification of paid receipt.